this again. For whatever reason, my camera system was not working on the last application, so now we had to try to use a different application. Hopefully this one works and it continues working. Why would my prison experience be something that would qualify me to be able to give anybody advice? And I think that's a resounding question that most people just don't ask. If you're looking for a stack of certifications, I don't have it. If you're looking for some kind of a video that tells you that I'm a multi-millionaire and that I've found the ultimate secret to success, I don't have it. I'm a dude that makes a lot of mistakes and tries to learn from each of those mistakes and continue to move forward anyways. That's all. That's all there is to it. I just have a little bit more persistence than the next person. I don't necessarily listen when people say, "Oh, you're doing too much. That's outside of the norm. You shouldn't go that route. You should do this." I don't listen. I've always been the opposite kind of a guy. And that's probably the reason why I ended up going to prison at a young age, because I let that become a very negative thing. So, like I said, I don't have a giant stack of certifications to show you that says that, um, I'm nothing like Tony Robbins or some of these other guys that, they've lived kind of a very, very good, spotless life. I'm not that guy. I have made a lot of mistakes, but I've also got a lot of things right. And I've been very fortunate to understand that my effort is directly correlated to my outcomes. I've been very fortunate to understand that my mental health is very closely tied to my physical health. I've been fortunate because if it hadn't been for my prison experience taking me out directly out of high school and placing me into an incarceration, I would have never had the opportunity, I suppose, to continue exercise as a lifelong endeavor. But exercise and martial arts and the focus of betterment and the path of growing into a more complete person, that was what allowed me to develop into the incomplete person that I am today. And I say incomplete because I'm still growing. Nobody has this figured out. I don't care where you are in life, what your bank account looks like. You have problems the same as everyone else. We all kind of have to look into a mirror and be realistic about ourselves, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. We have things that we're terrible at. We have things that we're great at. And that is just the nature of life. We can't get around that. But we can be honest about the things that we are terrible at and put some effort into improving those. You can't, however, if you're focused outwards on other people. Prison was great for me because I was able to focus inwards. I was able to see who I was inside of my heart and then bring that out into the world. Prison was a really great experience because it was such a terrible place. And so if you can find reason to be good in a terrible place when you have every opportunity to not do so, if you can find reason to build and develop in that environment, then once you get out into the real world where you have resources, then you should be much more capable of producing a positive result. Now, there's a crazy statistic out there. 3-year recidivism rates is about 66%. So within 3 years of release, 66% of those that were incarcerated will return to incarceration. Now, a lot is to be said about not changing the people that you hang out with and not changing the things that you're doing. But also, there may not be enough resource for these people to continue to correct their path. It is very, very difficult. It was not an easy process for me. There was bumps in the road, even though I was pretty focused. Beyond 3 years, 82% of people that are released from prison will return within 10 years. 82%. So 8 out of 10 individuals will return within 10 years. That is an astounding statistic. It is very unfortunate that that is our reality. Some of these individuals, I made my choices that got me incarcerated in the first place. Most people are in that predicament. I will agree, maybe there are some people that are convicted, that are wrongly convicted, but for the most part, by and large, if you're in prison, you did something to get there. And so the only realistic way to start to dig yourself out of that hole is to look in the mirror and be honest about what happened. And say, even though I wasn't in full control of everything, I accept responsibility for this situation, and I'm going to do what I can to rebuild myself from the man I am now into the man that I wish to be. And I hope that's a man that is good for his family and that is good for himself and his community. I know that's a tall order. That's a heavy task because you've been cast to the side, thrown away from society. But the reality is that what you feel inside, your belief and your faith about who you can become is more important than what other people think about you. Because your connection with God is going to come from following your heart, not following other people's opinions. I think there's not enough resource to help these kinds of people, but at the same time, overall society has kind of an issue with just putting their head down and putting the work in. By and large, more people just want to do the minimum to get by rather than see what they're capable of, see what they can improve by their efforts. Instead of putting forward as much effort as possible, they put forward the minimum just to skate by. And that's become a consistent trend. And the issue is that in almost every sector, there's going to be somebody like me that will do the absolute maximum, day in and day out. And we're just going to run past you. So I think in order to make it so that it's more even as far as competition is concerned, we can't spend our time complaining about how good or bad somebody else has it. We just have to focus on ourselves and say, look, these are my own independent weaknesses. These are my own independent strengths. This is how I need to adapt, and this is how I'm going to move forward. It's not going to be an overnight snap your fingers, figure it out. It doesn't work that way. When I first started, and I was in prison, I remember standing in front of the stainless steel toilet, looking in my stainless steel scratched ass mirror, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell am I going to produce myself into somebody who is a business owner, who's respected? How am I going to do that? And I'm standing inside of prison at this time. There's no evidence for me to prove that I would be even capable of that. None. I just don't understand. And maybe I was wrong by thinking that, but that was legitimately what I thought. So I wanted to backtrack. I had always learned that if you set big goals, you start at that goal and you work backwards. You start putting individual little tasks behind that. And that gives you a clear path from where you are to that goal. And so when I broke it down individually, it got to the silliest goal possible. I was going to brush my teeth with my left hand because I'm right-handed for a month. So for a month, I brushed my teeth with my left hand. And really all that was doing for me was helping me build new habits, because further down the road, I had all of these habits that I needed to implement. And I'm like, how in the hell am I going to do all that? There's no way. A lot of us start and stop and start and stop because things are too hard. And that's one habit. When you have to change your entire life You have to change the construct of your entire day. You have to change what you think. You have to change how you behave. I started by brushing my teeth with my left hand, and I did that for a month. And then I picked something else. I ended up doing pull-ups every morning at 7 a.m. as a part of a ritualistic thing. I would do my studies. I would exercise. I virtually kept this consistent routine that was just repetitive over and over and over and over again. And they were building very good things. And after I did that for long enough, that became my life. And even once I got out of prison, I was able to take that same study, work, eat, sleep, exercise, and apply it to college. And then once I decided I was beyond college, I was able to apply that study, work, eat, sleep, train, and apply that to MMA. And then once I went to Florida, I was able to apply that study, work, eat, sleep, train while I was going to school full-time and working full-time on the road. This was before my son was born. And then I was able to apply that to my own independent businesses. Study, work, eat, sleep, train. So the same system that I built in prison is the same system that I use today to keep me moving. It's the same frame of thought, but it stemmed from deep internal reflection that was only possible by first addressing the truth of where you are now is your fault. It's your responsibility. Nobody else's. We can't blame anyone for where we are. We have to look in the mirror and say, I know it's a long ways to where I want to be, but if we think logically and break this down into small goals, then we can start creating new habits, and those habits will eventually build us into the person that can uphold those things that we want. Now, there is no foolproof way to do it, and like I've said hundreds of times, I make mistakes every day, but I don't let it stop me. I try to learn from it with as little ego as possible and move on. Because I know what it's like to have wasted time. There's 5 years of my life that I am never going to get back. I'm never going to be able to apply that toward my family's betterment. Ever. And that is something that has stuck with me and will stick with me until the end of time. I know what it's like to throw years of your life away, literally, and to not have the ability to improve. And I refuse to go back to that willingly. Stagnation is the enemy. I believe that life is a continuum. A continuum meaning, imagine a spiral. It's going down, but it also goes up. Right? So life is a little ball on this continuum. It's either going up or it's going down. You're either pushing it up by your efforts, or you're not doing anything and it's falling down. And that's our health. So the minute that we stop exercising, we stop taking care of ourselves, that continuum starts receding down. Now, you may not fall into depression right away, but you stop working out long enough, and I guarantee you're going to fall into a depressive state. That's a continuum reaching the bottom. Now, the same way applies for the upward pressure. So if we're constantly pushing up, then we're constantly trying to grow. We will never reach perfection. That is totally understood. But that there's no harm in trying. I will never be the perfect dad, but I will try. I will try as hard as I can. And I hope that when my son grows to be old enough to have his own family, that he will look at it and say, I know I can't be perfect, but I'll try. That's good enough for me. I can't be a perfect fighter. It's just not possible, but I will try. I can't be a perfect coach. It's not possible, but I will try. I can't be a perfect husband. It's not possible, but I will try. All we have to do is put our ego to the side, say, I'm not good enough, but I will try. And that may be the hardest thing for you to do, especially if ego is something that you're very driven by, if it's something that is partnered with your identity. There's a lot of people like that. Their ego is their identity. Martial arts is a very special vehicle because it will strip that from you, and then it will take you to another place where you are a much better person. Martial arts has a unique way of letting you know where you are in the world, and I think a lot of people have a misconstrued hierarchy. They think we're all top of the food chain, and unfortunately there's even levels to the food chain, and martial arts is something that will teach you that. It will strip you of your ego and take you to a new place. If you don't even know where to begin, you have this grand idea for the place that you want to be in the future, but it seems so far away and not possible, then my suggestion is find something that helps you detach from life, from your stresses, from your current circle of friends, and allows you to kind of be with yourself and be comfortable by yourself. Be independent. There's a saying in prison, you come in alone, you leave alone, right? Don't make any friends along the way. Well, it's kind of like that in the world too. You need to be independent to a certain extent. You need to be spiritually able to lean on yourself and to lean on God when you need somebody to help you. We always need somebody to help us. So, having the ability to internally speak to yourself in a positive manner and then have a positive relationship with your higher power is going to help you tremendously navigate these situations that seem insurmountable. There may not be any perfect answer. Nobody has an exact science. As I've said before, 66% of people that go to prison return within 3 years, and 82% of those people will return within 10 years. 8 out of 10 people repeat the same cycle over and over again. So, the best way to stop repeating cycles and stop causing pain in your own life is to look in the mirror and say, look, I understand. There's been a lot that's happened in life, but we have to accept responsibility even if it's not all our fault. We have to say, I'm responsible for what happens from this point on. Take accountability, take ownership, and decide to implement new habits that are congruent with the goals that you have. That's all I got. That's my blue collar corner. Over and out.